So here is a recipe to make the absolute best soft pretzels that I have ever had in my life. I have made this recipe, I think, 4 times in the last 10 days. Like, I don't know, I'm obsessed. I got this recipe originally off the King Arthur flour website, so it's kind of fitting that I happen to be using King Arthur flour right now. Hopefully you have flour and yeast at your house. But you need 2½ cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 2½ teaspoons of yeast, and about 1 cup of water. The original recipe said anywhere between 7/8 and 1 cup of water, depending on humidity. I've just always used 1 cup because that's easier to measure. You will also need salt, preferably coarse salt or kosher salt, or if you have it specifically, pretzel salt, but in a pinch, regular salt, table salt will do. Baking soda and butter and water as part of the topping. So you want to make sure you have those two. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of baking soda, 1 cup of water, 3 tablespoons of melted butter, and just, I didn't write down a measurement for the salt because you just kind of use as much as you need. You start by mixing together all of the dry ingredients, the flour, salt, sugar, and yeast. And then once you have those mixed together, you're going to add some water. Warm water, I forgot to say that before because it helps the yeast to rise. Once that's formed itself into a dough, you want to knead it for about 8 minutes. If you're lucky like me and you have a dough hook, you can let your machine do that. If you don't have a dough hook, that's fine. You just knead it like you would bread. Once you're done kneading the dough, you're going to put it in a lightly greased bowl, cover it, and let it rise for half an hour. While the bread is rising, you're going to take a cup of water and boil it on the stove, and then add 2 tablespoons of baking soda and stir it until it dissolves. You're making like a little bath for the bread. And then you're going to put it into a relatively shallow dish and let it cool while the bread rises, because when you use it later, you want it to be lukewarm. Once the bread has risen for half an hour, you're going to preheat the oven to 475 and then cut the bread into 8 equal pieces, which you are then going to roll into long, roughly 2-foot long ropes. With those long ropes, you can then make a pretzel shape. You can either try to be fancy and make a sort of like failed version of an actual pretzel, or you can just twist it around itself. That's fine. What it looks like is not going to be important. It's just going to be super tasty, so you don't have to really care. In this particular batch, I'm actually making some that are just going to be flat because my husband thought they would make really good sandwich bread things. So we're experimenting with that this time to see if that's actually going to be true. But regardless, whatever shape it is, you're going to take the thing and put it into the bath of baking soda and water. You know, I forgot to smoosh it all up. I think I let it get a little too cool. And you're going to let them sit in their baking soda bath for 2 minutes. That baking soda bath is what's going to give them that nice super brown pretzel-y color. Once you've soaked them in for 2 minutes in the baking soda bath, you're going to put them on a either lightly greased tray or parchment paper. Parchment paper would be better, but I didn't have any. And then sprinkle them with the coarse salt. Let them rest for 10 minutes and then pop them into that 475-degree oven that you've been preheating for the last whole time that you've been rolling them all out. And you want to cook them for 8 to 9 minutes or until they're a nice pretzel-y golden brown. Once they have come out of the oven, this is the point at which you would take butter and like carefully put that 3 tablespoons of butter over them. But I'm lazy and I don't like to clean things, so I find that if I just take the butter and I just roll it on the pretzel, that also just melts the butter onto the pretzel, and it doesn't take any more time, and there's less things that I have to clean, so that's pretty much how I do it. And then you can eat them, and they are delicious.